and Yud
Well, you
Gimel Ches.
you go test.
Ches. Eight. Number eight.
Why do I have? I don't know why I did this.
Probably you're in the previous one. You might be in Yud Tes. It's the previous one. So
Uh, if someone was married to two minor orphans and died, cohabitation or chalitza with one of them releases her co-wife. So too in the case of deaf mutes. If one was a minor and one was a deaf mute, cohabitation with one does not release her co-wife. If one was competent and one was a deaf mute, cohabitation with the competent one releases the deaf mute, but cohabitation with the deaf mute does not release the competent one. If one was an adult and one was a minor, cohabitation with the adult releases the minor, but cohabitation with the minor does not release the adult. If someone was married to two minor orphans and died, if the Yavam cohabitated with the first one and then the second one, or his brother cohabitated with the second one, he does not qualify the first one. So too in the case of two deaf mutes, if one was a minor and one was a deaf mute, if the Yavam cohabitated with the minor and then with the deaf mute, or if his brother then cohabitated with the deaf mute, he did not disqualify the minor. If the Yavam cohabitated with the deaf mute and then with the minor, or his brother then cohabitated with the minor, he disqualified the deaf mute. If one if one was competent and one was deaf mute, if the Yavam cohabited with the competent one and then with the deaf mute, or his brother cohabitated with the deaf mute, he does not disqualify the competent one. If the Yavam cohabitated with the deaf mute and then with the competent one, or if his brother then cohabitated with the competent one, he disqualified the deaf mute. Okay.
okay, so now we see we just saw that case. That case was the competent and the deaf mute, and now one is Daraisa and one is Darabanan. We're going to see exactly the same thing play out in the next Mishnah, which is with the Gedola and the Katana.
Mhm.
Okay, so so everything is almost identical, except we'll see there's a clause at the end which is slightly different. So the Gedola and the Katana. Bar Yavam ala Gedola, if the Yavam came to the adult, the Chazer Bar Katana, and then he went afterwards to the Katana, or Sheba Achiva la Katana, not Pasal is a Gedola, because of course the Gedola is a Doraisa. He's done the Yibum mitzvah Doraisa, and anything that happens thereafter is nothing happens. Right. Remember, we had that whole parak of what happens, all the four different things that you can do with there was mamar and get and bia and chalitza, and all the different combinations of what came first. Right. This is one of those cases that we have there. Once he's done the bia on the first woman, that's it. It's done. There's nothing after that. Okay, so that's playing out in our Mishnah over here. But what happens in the reverse direction by Yavam ala Katana, if he first does Yibum to the Katana, so now that's only a Yibum Durabanan. He hasn't exempted the adult Duraisa. The Chazar ala Gadola or Sheba Achiv ala Gadola, whether it's himself or his brother who went to the adult, Pasal is a Katana. So now he's ruined everything. He's puzzled the Katani and he has to divorce her, and he has to divorce the Gadola and give her a Chalitza. He has to give a chalitza as well because the chalitza because midioraisa she needs either a yibum or a chalitza, and since he did he did the second beer wasn't did not affect it did not affect yibum on a derabanan level because
Okay.
she had because he'd already done the yibum on the first wife the katana. Okay. Now, interestingly, Rabbi Elazar comes and says, "Well, we actually have an eitzah that we can do over here because, granted that things got messed up over here, but let's just put everyone in stasis for a few years until the katana reaches adulthood. Then you'll have relations with her as an adult woman, and she'll become his wife fully, minatora. And then the second. Beg your pardon. I'm reading. Ignore what I just said. That's not what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says, "Melamdin is a katana shetim einbo." Tell the katana that she should refuse him because remember the katana it was married on a durabanan level, and she has the right of refusal. So just say that she should refuse him, and then and then he can go back to the Gedola and he can do Yibum with her, since that would be on a Deraisa level. However, the Chachamim were not happy with that idea, and I do not think. Yeah, I don't think that they. So right, so but basically what he's saying is that you can retroactively annul that marriage and just leave it as a simple case of a single adult Yavama, and then you can continue with your Yibum of her, which is a an interesting approach that you just even though you seemingly mess things up and now you're in a position where you need to divorce both women, but he's saying he has an Eitzah that you can get yourself out of this trouble. Okay. Mishnah Yud Beis. Yavam Katan. Okay, now we're switching to where the Yavam himself is a Katan again. We spoke, remember we had a whole bunch of Mishnayos about the Yavam Katan who is able to, his bia is considered a proper bia, but he's not making a Kenyan Doraisa. So Chachamim accepted him to do bia to the extent that he can have an effect on his brothers, but it's not a yibum doraisa yet. So Yavam Katan Shebal Yavama Katana. So there's a so in on from two aspects this is Darabanan. One is that it's that the Yavam is himself is a Katan, and two that the Katana. Let me just check if this is a case of um, um, I think this is still a case of a kid. I don't even know if it matters if she's a katana who her father married off or her mother and brothers married off. I'm not. It doesn't say that she's a yasama, but nonetheless, she was a yavama, and this boy between the ages of 9 and 13 came and did yibum with her. Yigdalu zemze, they should grow up together, and then they will become adults together, and at the point when they're both adult, then the marriage becomes deraisa. Why does it have? Why does it mention this? Is because he eno yachol legarsha, that even if he decides that he doesn't want to live with her anymore, he has no choice in the matter at this point because as a minor he cannot divorce a woman.
Mhm. Right.
Okay, so until he becomes bar mitzvah, he cannot divorce her. So if he doesn't like her, he has to. It's too bad. He has to wait until he's bar mitzvah. Okay, what happens if he al yavama gadola, and if he and the same applies that even if the yavama is an adult and he's a child, they're still tigadlena. She has to wait until he grows up if they want to get divorced. Hayavama she'amra besoch shloshim yom. Now, what happens if the Yavama is unhappy in a marriage and the Yavam is unhappy in the marriage and he decides that he wants to divorce her? Okay, so now the Yavama comes to the court and says, Lo nivalti, but he never even had relations with me, which means that he never fulfilled Yibum Dioraisa. So that's a problem. Um, Kofi no soshi yachlotzla, then they force him to give her not only a get but a chalitza. Okay, because she needs the chalitza, and that we believe her without proof, just on the basis of her claim, if it's within 30 days. Okay, La'achar shloshim yom, but if it's longer than 30 days, mevakshim hemeno sheyach lotzla. Now, the change of lashon means that if he claims otherwise and says no, that's not what she's saying is not true. I've been living with her for a long time, and and I just want to divorce her. I don't want to give her a chalitza as well. For whatever reason, he decides that he's not interested in giving chalitza. He just wants to give her a get. So we just say, listen, please be nice about this, but there's no forcing because she waited for so long to make this claim. Ubizman shehu modeh, but if he admits it's true, then afilu la'acha 12 chodesh kofin osa she'ach lotzla. So once he himself admits that no, he's never had relations with her, then obviously we're going to force him to do a chalitza. Okay. Yud Gimel hanoderes hana'am yavama. Now uh, the woman during her husband's lifetime had an argument with her brother-in-law, and she made a neder of hana from this man, and then her husband dies, and now she's fallen to her brother-in-law that she hates for yibum. Obviously, she's got a neder on her, and he's not going to be able to marry her. So, kofin oso shiach lotzla. Then we force him to do chalitza. La'acha misas bala. However, if her husband died and then she saw, uh-oh, I don't like this brother-in-law, and now she makes a neder against him while she's waiting for Yibum, no, then that was unacceptable behavior on her behalf because she's trying to force his hand. V'vakshin hemena she'ach lotzla. Then we say, listen, she's clearly not happy. Be nice about it and give her a chalitza. And he says, no, no, I want to do Yibum. Then we just left at an impasse, and this woman has messed herself over because she has no derech out of this. V'im nizkavna lekach. However, if it is clear that this was her intention, she said it explicitly. Let's say her husband was terminally ill, and she made the neder before he died just to make sure. Afilu b'chaye ba'ala, even if it was during her husband's lifetime, vakshin hemenu la sheyach l'tzla, then we don't force him to give her the chalitza. We just say, be nice. Okay.
All right. It's hard to believe that these 9-year-old boys, you know what they're doing, and understand the whole thing about that. It need them and all. I don't, you know, I
Well,
think it's
you give them a little bit of a, father-son chat.
oh man. All right, we have Yud Vav.
You'd
A
test.
boy,
You'd test.
yeah, again, I get it. Yud
Uh,
Tess? Yes.
got to move that. Number nine, Mishnah number nine. Yeah, I believe so. I'm just checking on my own chart here. But
Okay.
yes, yep, you're the test.
Do this for all of them. All right. A boy 9 years and 1 day old who cohabitated with his Yavama and then, after reaching childhood, he married another woman and died. If he was not intimate with the first one after reaching adulthood, the first one performs Kalitza, but may not be taken in Yibum, while the second one may either perform Kalitza or be taken in Yibum. Reb Shimon says he may perform Yibum with whichever he prefers and must then perform Kalitza with the other one. It is the same whether he is aged 9 years and 1 day or age 20 and has not grown 2 hairs. A man may marry the relatives of the woman he raped or seduced. If he rapes or seduces her relatives after he married her, he is liable. A man may marry the woman raped or seduced by his father, or the woman raped or seduced by his son. Rabbi Yehuda prohibits the woman raped or seduced by his father. If a woman's son's converted with her, they perform neither Kalitza nor Yibum, even if the first was not conceived in sanctity, but was born in sanctity, and the second was conceived and born in sanctity. So too in the case of slave women whose sons were emancipated with her.
Okay.
Okay.
Agiga.
Agiga. I hope I have this right now. Base Aleph.
Yes.
Good. We may expound neither on the subject of illicit relationships to a group of three, nor on the account of the creation to a group of two, nor on the account of Mechava to an individual, unless he is wise and understanding through his own knowledge. Whoever speculates on four things, it would be better for him if he had not come into the world: what is above, what is below, what was before, and what is after. Similarly, whoever has no regard for the honor of his maker, it would be better for him had he not come into the world. Yossi ben Yosef says not to lean the hands on the head of the sacrificial animal on Yom Tov. Yosef ben Yochanan says to lean. Yosef ben Perkana says not to lean. Nita the Arbalite says to lean. Yudah ben Tabai says not to lean. Shimon ben Shatak says to lean. Shemaiah says to lean. Avatalan says not to lean. Hillel and Menachem do not disagree. Menachem left office. Shammai entered. Shammai says not to lean, and Hillel says to lean. The former are the respective pairs were Nisim, and the latter were heads of the Basin. Beit Shammai says, we may bring Shlamim on Yom Tov without leaning on them, but we may not bring Olos. Beit Hillel says we may bring both Shalom and Olos, and we may lean on them. Okay. Okay. And we have Yoma. Yoma is Gimel Vav.
Mhm.
They brought him to the barber chamber, which was in the holy area. They spread a linen sheet between him and the people. He washed his hands and feet and then undressed. But Meir said, first he undressed, then he washed his hands and feet. He went down and immersed himself, ascended and dried himself. They brought him white vestments. He dressed and then washed his hands and feet. In the morning he put on Pelusian linen worth 12 mana, and in the afternoon Indian linen worth 800 zuz. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. For the sages say in the morning he donned linen worth 18 mana, and in the afternoon linen worth 12 mana, and all worth together 30 mana. These amounts came from the public treasury, but if he wishes to add to these amounts, he may do so from his own. He then comes to his ox, and his ox was standing between the antechamber and the altar, its head to the south and its face to the west. Then Kohen Gadol stands to the east of the ox, facing west, and supports both his hands upon it and confesses. he would say the following: I beg of you, Hashem, I have acted wickedly, rebelled, and sinned before you. I and my household, I beg of you, Hashem, forgive now the wicked acts, rebellions, and sins for which I have acted wickedly, rebelled, and sinned before you. And I and my household, as is written in the Torah of your servant Moses, from this day he will atone for you. And they answer after him, blessed is the name, the glory of his kingship forever and ever.
Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yes, here we go. Okay, should be it.
Hmm.
Good solid.
But
The
hey,
substance,
we're talking about prosbul.
right? This is good solid. This is the substance of the protocol. I
No, no,
transmit to use.
no, it was
So,
prosbul mukdam. We're on hay, Mishna hay.
okay. A predated protocol is valid and a postdated one is invalid. Predated bills of undated lists are invalid and postdated ones are valid. If one borrows from five, he must write a protocol for each one. If five persons borrow from one, he need write only one. A protocol may be written for land, but if he has none, he gives him title to the part, however small, of his own field. If he has land held in pledge of the city, a protocol may be written for it. The chutzpah says one may write for a man concerning his wife's property and for orphans concerning the guardian's property. A beehive, Rebbe Eliezer says, is regarded as landed property, and a prose bill may be written on it, and is not susceptible to uncleanliness while it's in its place. And he who takes honey from it on the Sabbath is liable. But the comments say it is not regarded as landed property. A prose bill may not be written on it, and is susceptible to uncleanliness while it's in its place, and he who takes honey from it on the Sabbath is not liable. Okay,
Okay. Tomorrow we finish Shvius and start Trumos.
I'm sorry, Trumos?
Trumos tomorrow, yeah.
Caleb.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Kaf test Zion. The remnants of a prod from above is measured as 4 handbreadths. The handle of a spade measures 4 handbreadths. The handle of a mattock for pounding is measured as 5 handbreadths. The handle of a small hammer is measured as 5 handbreadths, and that of a hammer is 6 handbreadths. The handle of an axe for splitting wood and for hoeing is measured as 6 handbreadths, and the handle of a stoneman's chisel it measures as 6 handbreadths. The remnants of the blade from below, it's measured as 7 handbreadths. The handle of a household shovel, Beis Shammai says it's measured as 7 handbreadths. Beis Hillel says it's measured as 8 handbreadths. The handle of a shovel is of plasterers. Beis Shammai says it's measured as 9 handbreadths. Beis Hillel says it's measured as 10 handbreadths. If the length of the handle is more than this, if he wishes to preserve its length, it is tameh. And the handle of utensils that are used with fire, the measure is any length. Regarding glass utensils, their flatware are tahor, but the hollowwares are tameh. If they break, they become tahor, and if one remade the broken utensils into new utensils, they are susceptible to tumah from then on. A table and kutla made of glass are tahor. If they have a rim, they are tameh. Regarding the bottom of a plate and the bottom of an iskula made from glass, which one has designated for use, are tahor. If he smoothed them or saved them with a file, they are tameh. Okay.
Okay, Adkan. We finish Kalim tomorrow. And Shabbos we'll start with Ohalos.
Okay, so wait a second. We have Olos and
So Ohalos, not we're just going to finish Kalim tomorrow, and Ohalos is starting on Shabbos.
on all right, Sunday. So and then the other one you said was I can't remember. My mind is so bad.
And the other one is Trumos.
Trumos.
Yeah.
I'm so bad that I paid my plumber. I called the office. I paid them, and so I gave her the credit card number. She put it in. Fine, great. Later on, I went to the site and I paid them again. I call them. I won't get money back from the credit card, but I'll have to give you the money back. My son-in-law says, "Don't do any money things unless I'm here. Don't do." He says you're losing it. I'm telling you. Uh, if
Oh
once,
God.
oh man, head base. If one said to an unpaid shomer, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "It died," whereas in fact it broke a limb, was captured, stolen, or lost, and he replied, "It broke a limb," whereas in fact it died, was captured, stolen, and lost, and he replied, "It was captured," whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, was stolen, or lost, and he replied, "It was stolen," whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, was captured, or lost, and he replied, "It was lost," whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, was captured, and stolen, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he said, "Amen," he is exempt. If he said to him, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "I don't know where you are talking about," whereas in fact it died, broke a limb, was captured, stolen, or lost, and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," he's exempt. If he said to him, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "It was lost," and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," but witnesses testify against him that he ate it, he must pay the principal. If he confessed on his own, he must pay the principal plus a fifth and a guilt offering. If he said to him, "Where is my bull?" and he replied, "It was stolen," and he said to him, "I adore you," and he replied, "Amen," but witnesses testify against him that he stole it, he must pay the twofold payment. If he confessed on his own, he must pay the principal plus a fifth and a guilt offering. If he said to someone in the street, "Where is my bull that you stole?" and he replied, "I did not steal it," but witnesses has testified against it that he stole it, he pays the twofold payment. If he slaughtered it and sold it, he must pay a fourfold and fivefold payment. If he saw witnesses approaching and he said, "I stole, but I did not slaughter or sell," he pays only the principal. Okay. Now we're
Okay,
gonna
and that's it.
so wait. So tomorrow we finish this. We finish.